In the year of our Lord 1541, Quito buzzed with a fevered anticipation, a hunger for glory and gold stoked by whispers of El Dorado, the gilded king, and his city of unimaginable riches. Gonzalo Pizarro, his name already etched in the annals of conquest, stood as the epicenter of this fervent desire. The city itself was a melting pot, a testament to the burgeoning New World Order. Spanish ambition mingled with the remnants of Inca grandeur, the echoes of a fallen empire fueling the dreams of those who now walked its streets. Pizarro, driven by a hunger that gnawed at his very soul, studied the tattered map, its lines promising untold wealth and power. The rumors of El Dorado, whispered by natives and embellished by hopeful Spaniards, had become an obsession. Beside him stood Francisco de Orellana, a seasoned explorer whose loyalty was matched only by his ambition. He was a man of the rivers, his heart attuned to the rhythm of the unknown. Pizarro trusted Orellana's skills, but perhaps underestimated his own desires. The expedition was a grand spectacle, a force of 200 Spaniards and thousands of native porters, their footsteps echoing with the promise of conquest and the weight of expectation. From a distance, Anacaona watched, her heart heavy with foreboding. She had seen the newcomers' hunger for gold, their disregard for the land and its people. The whispers of El Dorado carried a different meaning for her, the promise of destruction. With a final, determined glance east, Gonzalo Pizarro raised his sword, a signal to begin the descent into the unknown. El Dorado awaited, or so he believed. The rainforest swallowed them whole, its verdant embrace hiding untold dangers. The dream of gold began to fade, replaced by the harsh realities of survival. Orellana, ever the pragmatist, navigated the treacherous waterways, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon, searching for a path, a sign, anything that might lead them closer to their elusive goal, or a means of escape. Carvajal, despite the growing despair, continued his mission, tending to the sick and offering solace to the dying. He clung to his faith, a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness. Unbeknownst to the conquistadors, Anacaona prepared her people. The whispers of El Dorado had reached her ears, and she knew that the city of gold was not their destination. It was merely a pretext for something far more sinister, the conquest of their world. The year is 1541. The conquistadors, their numbers swelled by indigenous porters and enslaved Africans, began their descent. Quito, with its promise of civilization, receded behind them, replaced by the verdant, suffocating embrace of the Amazon. The initial days were a torment of hacking through relentless vegetation. The jungle floor, a tapestry of decaying matter, sucked at their boots. Each step was a battle against the oppressive humidity and the ever-present threat of unseen dangers. Carvajal, his quills scratching against parchment, documented the men's suffering. "The forest," he wrote, "tests the body and the spirit. Many succumb to fever, their minds clouded by delirium. Hope dwindles with each passing day." Disease, a silent and invisible enemy, began to take its toll. Men, once proud and strong, were reduced to shadows, their bodies ravaged by fevers and dysentery. Pizarro, his patience wearing thin, grew increasingly ruthless. From the depths of the forest, Anacaona watched. She saw the suffering of the invaders, but also the devastation they wrought upon the land and its people. Her heart ached for her tribe, for the world she knew that was about to vanish. Encounters with indigenous tribes were frequent and rarely peaceful. Orellana, tasked with scouting and securing provisions, attempted diplomacy, but often met with resistance. The tribes, fiercely protective of their lands, saw the Spanish as a threat to their way of life. Pizarro's desperation grew with each passing day. He resorted to increasingly brutal methods, torturing captured natives for information about the mythical city of gold. His obsession consumed him, blinding him to the suffering of his men and the consequences of his actions. Carvajal, a witness to the escalating cruelty, wrestled with his conscience. He documented the atrocities, struggling to reconcile his faith with the barbarity he observed. "These men," he wrote, "have lost their souls in the pursuit of earthly riches." Tension simmered between Pizarro and Orellana. Pizarro, driven by desperation, demanded faster progress. Orellana, ever pragmatic, cautioned against recklessness, but his voice was losing ground. Nature itself seemed determined to thwart them. The rivers, swollen by relentless rains, became treacherous obstacles. Many lives and precious supplies were lost in their raging currents. Anacaona, witnessing the growing desperation of the invaders, rallied her people. She knew that their survival depended on their unity and resistance. The time for hiding was over. As the expedition pressed deeper into the green hell, Carvajal's chronicle grew increasingly dark. He sensed that they were not merely seeking gold, but stumbling toward something far more profound and dangerous. The shadow of El Dorado, it seemed, was a gateway to madness and untold suffering. The jungle tightened its grip. Each day, the verdant canopy seemed to press down further, suffocating hope. Food dwindled to a handful of leaves and roots, scavenged desperately from the forest floor. Sickness, a silent assassin, stalked our ranks. Orellana, ever the pragmatist, sought solutions. He studied the river currents, the meager charts, desperately searching for signs of a village, a clearing, anything that promised sustenance. But the river remained a silent, unforgiving god. My quill trembles as I write. The men are shadows of their former selves. Hunger gnaws not only at their bellies but at their souls. I fear what desperation might drive them to. Pizarro's grip tightened. His eyes, once filled with ambition, now reflected a desperate madness. He accused the indigenous people of hoarding food, of deliberately leading us astray. Brutality became his answer to every question. Orellana, with commendable courage, dared to challenge Pizarro's methods. He pleaded for restraint, for a more measured approach. But Pizarro, consumed by his own demons, would not listen. Sickness spread like wildfire. I, a humble servant of God, could offer little more than comfort and prayer. Each cough, each fevered brow, was a testament to our impending doom. Madness took root in Pizarro's mind. He saw El Dorado in every glint of sunlight, in every rustle of leaves. The line between reality and delusion blurred, and he dragged us all with him into his descent. Orellana, ever the leader, sought to maintain what little order remained. He spoke of scouting ahead, of finding a navigable route, of securing provisions. A desperate gamble, but one born of necessity. From the depths of the forest, Anacaona watched. She saw the hunger in their eyes, the madness in their hearts. She knew that their desperation would only bring more suffering to her people. The argument raged late into the night. Pizarro, fueled by paranoia, accused Orellana of plotting against him. Orellana, weary but determined, insisted on the necessity of his plan. A chasm opened between them, wider than the river itself. I pray for salvation, for deliverance from this nightmare. But I fear that God has abandoned us, leaving us to face the consequences of our own greed and folly. The brigantine, a fragile vessel of hope, took shape under Orellana's watchful eye. It was a desperate gamble, a leap of faith into the unknown. But in the depths of the Amazon, faith was all we had left. The meeting of the Napo and Marañón marked a turning point, not for the better. The rivers, swollen with the relentless rains, presented a new, daunting obstacle. Hope dwindled alongside our meager rations. Necessity, that cruel mistress, forced our hand. The decision was made. We would build a brigantine, a vessel to scout ahead for sustenance. Orellana, with his naval experience, was the obvious choice to lead the effort. The friar, ever diligent, recorded the unfolding events. His words, I suspect, capture the truth far better than any gilded account spun for the king's court. The brigantine, a fragile hope in a sea of despair, was taking shape, plank by painful plank. Pizarro, ever the commander, laid out his orders with an iron fist. Orellana was to scout ahead, find provisions, and return with all haste. The fate of the expedition, he declared, rested on his shoulders. Orellana listened, his face a mask of composure. But I saw it a flicker of doubt, a seed of rebellion taking root in his mind. The weight of Pizarro's command was a heavy burden. Pizarro's gaze followed Orellana as he boarded the brigantine. Was it trust, or merely the absence of alternatives, that fueled his decision? Either way, the die was cast. As the brigantine pushed off from the shore, Orellana stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the river ahead. The orders were clear: return with provisions. But the lure of the unknown, the whisper of survival, tugged at his conscience. I watched the brigantine vanish into the embrace of the river, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. Something felt amiss, a premonition of a course irrevocably altered. I prayed for Orellana's safe return, but a darker thought crept into my mind. Was this a scouting mission, or a departure? Alone in his makeshift cabin, Orellana wrestled with his decision. The map spread before him whispered of uncharted territories, of possibilities beyond Pizarro's grasp. But the faces of his starving comrades haunted his thoughts. Unseen, unheard, Anacaona watched the strange vessel glide downriver. She sensed the turmoil within the hearts of these newcomers, the hunger that drove them, and the shadow they cast upon her land. The sun rose, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson. With each passing mile, the decision solidified in Orellana's heart. He would not return. He would press on, driven by a desperate hope, a thirst for discovery, and perhaps a touch of madness. Days turned into weeks. The brigantine did not return. Pizarro raged, his pronouncements filled with fury. But I knew in my heart that Orellana was gone, carried away by the river's embrace and the siren call of the unknown. The shadow of El Dorado had deepened, casting a long, dark pall over our doomed expedition. The Amazon seized Orellana's brigantine in its relentless grip. Rapids, unseen and treacherous, churned the water into a froth of white fury. Each bend in the river presented a new, unpredictable challenge, testing the limits of the vessel and the resolve of its crew. Father Carvajal, ever the diligent chronicler, documented the unfolding drama. Each entry in his journal was a testament to their diminishing supplies, the gnawing hunger, and the growing unease that permeated the air. He wondered if he would ever see Quito again. "Men," Orellana began, his voice echoing across the small vessel, "supplies are low. The current is strong, returning is unwise, but onward there could be provisions, land, salvation. We must press on." Carvajal wrestled with his conscience. Should he return, attempt to rejoin Pizarro and face the wrath of a betrayed commander, or continue with Orellana, gambling on the unknown promises of the river? Each choice carried its own peril, its own moral weight. Orellana's decision was made. The die was cast. He would not turn back. The allure of the unknown, the potential for discovery, outweighed the certainty of Pizarro's fury. The Amazon, his destiny, beckoned him forward. "Captain," Carvajal said, his voice calm despite the turmoil within, "I will remain. Perhaps God has a purpose for us on this river, even if we do not yet understand it." The days blurred into a monotonous rhythm of hardship and uncertainty. The river remained their sole companion, its currents dictating their fate, its dangers ever present. Hope and despair wrestled within each man's heart. Orellana, fueled by a stubborn will, continued to chart their course, relying on his rudimentary maps and the unreliable accounts of the indigenous people they encountered. Each league traveled was a victory, each obstacle overcome a testament to their dwindling resilience. Carvajal, beyond his duties as a chronicler, served as a physician and a spiritual guide. He offered what solace he could, tending to the sick and wounded, offering prayers for their salvation in this green hell. The river tested them without mercy. One moment, calm waters; the next, a raging torrent threatening to tear the vessel apart. Only through sheer luck and desperate effort did they manage to survive each harrowing encounter. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The landscape began to change. The dense jungle slowly gave way to wider stretches of river, hinting at the vastness that lay ahead. A glimmer of hope flickered in Orellana's eyes. Carvajal continued to chronicle their improbable journey, his words capturing the hardship, the fear, and the unwavering faith that had carried them this far. He knew not what awaited them, but he trusted that God, in his infinite wisdom, had a purpose for them yet. Days bled into weeks as Orellana's brigantine drifted further down the Amazon. The river, a serpent of brown water, broadened with each passing tributary. Hope, or perhaps delusion, propelled them forward, ever onward towards the unknown. I confess, dear reader, that my faith is tested daily. The hardships we endure are beyond measure. Yet, amidst the suffering, I strive to record all that we encounter, both wondrous and terrifying, for the glory of God and the enlightenment of Christendom. The first village appeared as a mirage, a cluster of huts swallowed by the green immensity. We approached with caution, unsure of the reception we would receive. These people, untouched by our world, held the power of life and death in their hands. They offered us gifts, sustenance in exchange for what we could only guess. Their faces, painted with strange symbols, revealed no malice, only a deep-seated curiosity. We accepted their offerings with humility, praying it would be enough to forge a peaceful passage. The children, the children. Untainted by the sins of our world, they frolicked in the river with carefree abandon. I pray that we do not bring them only suffering and sorrow. Not all encounters were peaceful. Whispers of hostile tribes reached our ears, warnings carried on the wind. We knew that we could not trust every smile, every gesture of friendship. The Amazon demanded vigilance. The attack came without warning, a sudden eruption of fury from the depths of the jungle. Arrows rained down upon us, each one a harbinger of death. We were intruders, unwelcome guests in their domain. Orellana, ever the soldier, rallied his men. Swords flashed, muskets roared, and the river ran red with blood. We fought for our survival, for our lives, in this savage, unforgiving land. Word reached Anacaona of the pale-faced men and their floating fortress. She knew that their arrival heralded not prosperity but destruction. She called upon her people to prepare, to defend their homes, their families, their way of life. They worked tirelessly, sharpening their weapons, reinforcing their defenses, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear and defiance. They would not surrender their land without a fight. The spirits of their ancestors demanded it. I pray for these souls, both ours and theirs. May God grant us mercy and guide us through this darkness. For I fear that the river carries us not towards salvation, but towards damnation. The river flowed on, indifferent to the suffering it had witnessed. Orellana pressed onward, driven by ambition, or perhaps by a desperate need to escape the shadow of Pizarro. The fate of El Dorado, and of all those who sought it, remained shrouded in the mists of the Amazon. The river carried us further eastward, each day revealing new wonders and new horrors. Yet, it was not the ferocity of the rapids or the threat of starvation that troubled my soul most profoundly. It was the people, the sheer scale of their settlements, and the sophistication of their ways. We passed villages that stretched for miles along the riverbanks, a continuous tapestry of thatched roofs and cultivated fields. These were not the scattered settlements of nomadic tribes, but organized communities, bustling with activity. I witnessed structures that defied my understanding. Great earthen mounds, precisely shaped and seemingly built for purposes beyond mere dwellings. Were these temples, fortresses, or something else entirely? Their fields were a testament to their ingenuity. They had mastered the art of cultivating the land, using sophisticated irrigation systems to coax life from the seemingly unforgiving jungle. It was a scene of planned abundance, not the haphazard survival I had expected. Orellana, ever the pragmatist, sought to understand their governance. He spoke with their leaders, attempting to decipher the intricacies of their society. Each interaction deepened the mystery, suggesting a level of organization far beyond that of simple tribal structures. I confess, I struggled to reconcile what I was witnessing with the narratives we had crafted in Europe. Were we truly the bringers of civilization to a savage land? Or were we merely stumbling upon a civilization already ancient and wise? From Anacaona's perspective, they came, these pale-faced strangers, with their hunger for shiny metal and their tales of a god I did not know. They saw our abundance, our order, and called it savagery. But I saw the madness in their eyes, the desperation that drove them to destroy what they did not understand. I must be cautious in my writings. To speak of such things openly would invite ridicule, perhaps even accusations of heresy. Yet I cannot ignore the truth that stares me in the face. There is more to this land than gold and empty promises. Orellana, I suspect, cares little for my philosophical musings. His concerns are practical: food, navigation, and the ever-present threat of attack. Yet even he cannot deny the evidence of our eyes. This is no wilderness. It is a kingdom, perhaps more vast and ancient than any we have known. The question that haunts me is this: if these societies are so advanced, why have we not heard of them before? Has this knowledge been deliberately suppressed? Or is it simply that we, in our arrogance, have failed to see what was plainly before us? The river continues to carry us onward, deeper into the heart of this mystery. We are voyagers on a river of secrets, and I fear that what we discover may change everything we thought we knew about the world. I pray that history will judge us fairly, that it will see beyond the gold and the glory and recognize the true significance of this journey. For we have not merely discovered a river, we have stumbled upon a lost civilization, a whisper of a world that could have been. Orellana's departure was a hammer blow. The jungle, once a challenge, now felt like a prison. The horses, our last hope of transport and a source of dwindling meat, were mostly gone, consumed by hunger and exhaustion. Pizarro's rage was a palpable thing, a dark cloud hanging over our dwindling band. I continue to record the daily descent into despair. The men, driven to the brink, whisper of mutiny. Pizarro, once a figure of authority, now rules through fear and increasingly erratic decrees. I fear for their souls and for my own. The jungle played tricks on the mind. Pizarro began to see enemies in the shadows, El Dorado shimmering just beyond the next tree. The line between reality and delusion blurred, and his grip on sanity weakened with each passing day. The forest became our ally. Anacaona's people, silent as shadows, harried the edges of our encampment, stealing supplies, poisoning water sources, and disappearing back into the green depths before retribution could be exacted. Each day our men were lost to arrows or snares. Starvation gnawed at our bellies. Men fought over scraps of leather, roots, anything that might offer a moment's respite from the hunger. The dream of gold had soured into a desperate struggle for survival. Paranoia festered. Pizarro, convinced of betrayal at every turn, executed one of his captains on the mere suspicion of plotting mutiny. The act, intended to inspire fear, only deepened the sense of hopelessness among the men. Death became a constant companion. Disease, starvation, and the arrows of Anacaona's warriors thinned our ranks. I offered what solace I could, but even faith felt frail in this green hell. We would not let them rest. Every raid, every disruption was a message. This land is not yours. The war was costly but had to be done. Pizarro, desperate to maintain control, rallied his remaining men with promises of untold riches, painting vivid pictures of El Dorado's splendor. But his words rang hollow, betrayed by his haunted eyes and the gaunt faces of his audience. The retreat began, a slow, agonizing crawl back towards Quito. The jungle, which had once held the promise of untold wealth, now seemed intent on swallowing us whole. I walked beside Pizarro, a silent witness to his shattered dreams. The man who had set out to conquer an empire now seemed utterly defeated, his spirit broken by the jungle and the weight of his own ambition. They left as they came, burdened with nothing. The shadow of El Dorado had consumed them all, and so the forest was ours once more. Months after Orellana's departure, a ghost of an army limped towards Quito. Gonzalo Pizarro, once a symbol of Spanish might, now embodied failure itself. The jungle had stripped him of his ambition, leaving behind only a shell of a man. Friar Gaspar de Carvajal, ever the chronicler, documented not the glory of conquest but the devastation. His quill scratched across parchment, recording the names of the dead, the faces of the starving, the madness that had consumed them all. Quito watched in stunned silence as Pizarro's meager band straggled through the city gates. The triumphant return they had envisioned was replaced by a spectacle of misery. The city that had once cheered their departure now offered only pity and whispers. The reckoning was swift. Pizarro was summoned before the royal audience, the governing body of Quito. He faced accusations of mismanagement, cruelty, and ultimately failure. The dream of El Dorado had cost too much. News of Orellana's successful navigation of the Amazon reached Spain. He was hailed as a hero, his name etched in the annals of exploration, while whispers of betrayal dogged his every step. In Anacaona's village, life slowly returned. The threat of the conquistadors had receded, but the scars remained. The earth held the bones of the fallen, and the air echoed with the memories of those lost to disease. The people honored their dead, their rituals a defiant act of remembrance against the tide of conquest. Anacaona led the ceremonies, her voice strong despite the sorrow in her heart, a beacon of hope in the face of overwhelming loss. Pizarro retreated into the shadows, his dreams of glory turned to ashes. He remained in Quito, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. The scar on his cheek served as a permanent reminder of his failed ambition. Friar Carvajal continued his work, his chronicles a testament to the expedition's complexities. He questioned the motives, the methods, and the ultimate cost of their pursuit of El Dorado, grappling with the moral implications of their actions. Orellana, despite the controversy surrounding his departure, never lost his fascination with the Amazon. He pored over maps, planning a return, forever haunted by the river's secrets and the lost souls left behind. Anacaona ensured that the traditions of her people would endure. She taught the children the stories of their ancestors, the skills of survival, and the importance of respecting the delicate balance of the rainforest. She passed the knowledge, hoping to keep her people from being erased from the earth. And so, the tale of El Dorado's shadow faded into history. The gold remained elusive, but the human cost was undeniable. The clash of civilizations had left scars that would never fully heal, and the true treasures of the Amazon remained hidden, guarded by the secrets of the rainforest and the resilience of its people. Carvajal's chronicles, a stark reminder of the complexities of conquest, served as a lasting testament to the madness, the myth, and the medieval explorers who sought their fortune in a new world. After months of relentless travel, battling currents, storms, and the unknown, the mouth of the Amazon finally opened before them. The vast expanse of the Atlantic shimmered, a testament to their improbable journey. Orellana, his face etched with exhaustion and a strange mix of pride and guilt, knew he had crossed a threshold, forever altering the map of the world. Carvajal, ever the diligent chronicler, meticulously recorded their arrival, attempting to reconcile the wonders he had witnessed with the brutal realities of their conquest. The river, the tribes, the rumored cities, all pressed upon him, challenging his understanding of the new world and its place in God's plan. The brigantine, a testament to their resilience and ingenuity, cut through the waves, carrying Orellana and his men towards the open sea. They were the first Europeans to traverse the Amazon, a feat that would forever be etched in the annals of exploration, though its cost remained heavy. Back in the unforgiving jungle, Pizarro and his remaining men continued their arduous trek back to Quito. The dream of El Dorado had dissolved into a nightmare of starvation, disease, and betrayal. The jungle, once a path to riches, was now a tomb of shattered ambitions. News of Orellana's voyage slowly spread across Europe, igniting the imagination of explorers and fueling the myth of the Amazon. Maps were redrawn, stories embellished, and the search for El Dorado intensified, now interwoven with tales of powerful warrior women and hidden civilizations. Carvajal's chronicles, though filtered through the lens of his faith and biases, sparked intense debate among European scholars. His descriptions of organized societies and advanced infrastructure along the Amazon challenged prevailing notions of the New World and raised questions about the true nature of indigenous civilizations. For the indigenous populations, Orellana's voyage marked the beginning of a new era of disruption and exploitation. The river, once a source of life and connection, became a highway for conquest, carrying disease, destruction, and the insatiable greed of the invaders. Pizarro, upon his return to Spain, faced censure and disgrace. His grand ambitions had crumbled, replaced by the bitter taste of failure. The name El Dorado became a cruel reminder of his folly, a symbol of the seductive power of myth and the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition. Orellana, despite the controversy surrounding his actions, secured funding for a return expedition to the Amazon. He sought not only to claim the land for Spain, but perhaps also to vindicate himself in the eyes of history. But fate would intervene. He died of illness on the second voyage, his dreams unfulfilled. Centuries later, the Amazon remains a realm of untold secrets. While much has been explored and documented, whispers of lost civilizations and undiscovered tribes persist. The echoes of El Dorado, the siren call of the unknown, continue to lure explorers and researchers into its verdant heart. The legacy of the expedition lives on in the oral traditions of the Amazonian peoples. The stories of Anacaona and other indigenous leaders, the clash of cultures, and the resilience of the human spirit are woven into the very fabric of their identity, a testament to the enduring power of memory and resistance. The question remains, what truly drove the conquistadors into the heart of the Amazon? Was it merely the lust for gold, or were they on the precipice of discovering something far more profound? The answers lie buried within the tangled web of history, myth, and the enduring enigma of El Dorado, waiting to be unearthed.